what's your name?
Elliot Levin.
Elliot.
Elliot, yes.
And you were born here?
Yeah, oh, sure. Springfield, Mass.
And where were you born in the North
I was
End?
born in the North End. Come from the North End.
What street did you live
I
on?
lived on Osgood Street in the North End.
Osgood, yes.
Oh, yeah, Osgood Street.
And what was
My
the shul that you
grandfather,
went
I went to the Beth Israel. My grandfather was the Gabbai of the Beth Israel Synagogue.
What was his name?
His name was Eli Levin.
Eli Levin.
Levin, L-E-V-I-N, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you remember moving to...
We moved from the North End. We moved up to Forest Park.
Yes.
Then
You
Forest.
went to Kadima?
No, Forest
Because-
Park. I stayed in we had the Beth Israel. I stayed with the Beth Israel. The Beth Israel also moved. They went to Long Meadow. So
They
I
went to Long Meadow,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And when I was a little boy, I went to Yeshiva. I went to the
next
Yeshiva.
door to-
Yeshiva Bocher. It was on Sumner Avenue. The Yeshiva was on Sumner Avenue at that time, and now they got a new building on Converse Street. So.
Tell us some of the families you remember growing up, the Jewish families.
Well, there was my friend David Temkin, the Temkin family. They lived across the street from the shul. When I should have been in shul, I was over his house, maybe playing soldiers or something, when I should have been in Cheder, which I skipped a couple of times, I hate to say, but we all did that. And there's a lot of people that came from the Second World War. They lived in my block. They lived in a block at 64 Osgood Street, and they were Holocaust survivors there that also lived there, and I grew up with a few of them. And we had quite, yeah, there was Simon Fuchs, his parents. There was, it's hard to remember. I was just a little boy when I was down there, but there was quite a few Holocaust survivors.
Who was the rabbi of your shul?
The rabbi was Rabbi Shankhoff. And then his son took over after that. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, those were good days. Oh, those were down in North End. It was different. It was
Yeah,
nice.
it was. Was
It was
it
different. I
better?
went to Cheder down there. It was nice. Everybody was Jewish. You know, yeah. It was a nice. It was a Hamish place, if for stage. Yeah.
The Jewish stores.
Well, there was. We used to go to. There was a Barney's Market. That was a Jewish store. We used to go to Milton Chernick's. That was Milton Chernick's butcher shop. There was another Chernick. He sold eggs. We used to go there when I was a little boy. They used to look. I remember looking at the eggs through a candle. We used to have to see if the eggs were any good. It was quite good times. But yeah, everything was down. Everything down was down the North End. Ferry Street. Ferry Street. My uncle had a delicatessen on Ferry Street. It was called Benny's Cafeteria. Benny was quite famous. Quite famous. My father worked there after that. It was quite.
Eisenstadts last night told us about Benny.
Harry Eisenstadt. Yeah, a very good friend of mine. Harry is a good.
His wife, actually.
Yes, she's very. Yes, I know her too. Yeah, very. Harry, I know. Okay.
I am from Longmeadow, Massachusetts. I'm a board member of the Federation, a new board member.
How long have you lived here?
My family and I have lived here for 5 years now, so relatively new to Western Massachusetts.
What made you decide to join the board?
Through my connection with the Harold Grinspoon Foundation. I work for the Harold Grinspoon Foundation and have become more and more engaged in the... I work for the Grinspoon Institute for Jewish Philanthropy, which does fundraising, consulting, board development, and strategic planning for Jewish nonprofit camps. And have become more and more engaged in the Jewish community and wanted to become more engaged at the Federation level for our community.
Where'd you come from?
The Boston area.
Welcome.
So, thank you.
Can you give us your name,
David Schwer,
where you're from?
Long Meadow,
How long have you lived in the area?
all my life.
How many years is that about?
I was born here.
In the North End?
No, I was born in Forest Park.
Ah, a little later.
A little later.
A little later. And,
Yes.
And what street did you live on?
Woodside Terrace and Abbott Street.
And do you still have that place?
Nope. No, we live in Long Meadow. We lived in Long Meadow 40 years.
And what shul did you go to when you were a kid?
Bethel.
Bethel?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay, and who was the rabbi then?
Dresner. No, excuse me. It was, oh God. It was Frischberg, Rabbi Frischberg, then Dresner, and there was somebody before Frischberg.
Okay.
No remembrance.
Thank you.
For a living.
I'm a lawyer.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm Lynn Fogel,
And Bill Fogel.
and we've lived in the Springfield area for close to 50 years. We don't live here anymore, but this is home still in our hearts.
We're up in Lenox now, and we're involved in the Jewish community in Lenox as well as the Jewish community in Florida, in Boca Raton.
When did you come to Springfield?
Came to
was born in
Springfield.
Springfield.
I was born and brought up in Springfield,
In which neighborhood?
Forest Park,
What was the shul you went to?
Kadima,
And who was the rabbi?
Rabbi Isaac Klein.
And you remember your teachers' names?
Oh, I know Irving Carroll, who was the principal of the Hebrew School, United Hebrew School in those days, which was right across from Forest Park Junior High School, and Kadima was right next door to it.
In the old Kaiser building or in the new building?
Well, the Kesser building, it was Kadima,
Right.
was the old Kadima,
Is that
and
what-
next door, the Union headquarters originally was United Hebrew School.
And what was your street address?
Trafton Road, 259 Trafton Road.
Right. And your parents' names?
Jacob and Beatrice Weiner Fogel and Jacob Fogel.
What did your parents do for a living?
My father was in the furniture business, a manufacturer of upholstered furniture
In Springfield?
in Springfield.
What's this company now named?
Springfield Upholstery Works, and he came to this country when he was in his 20s via Argentina because he couldn't get into the country in the 20s. If you remember, in the 1920s, there were immigration restrictions from Eastern Europe.
And what is your business
I'm in the real estate business now,
now?
had been in the furniture business. And my wife is?
Sculptor, and I'm having fun because I'm doing things in bronze now. I'm not a Springfield native. I was born and raised in New Jersey, and Springfield's has been my home since we were married 52 years ago.
Elliot Bloom. What else would you like to know?
Well, where were you born, Elliot?
Springfield, Massachusetts.
And what neighborhood?
Oh, I grew up in Forest Park.
What was your shul?
I've always been a member of I had always been a member of Kadima growing up.
And it was on
The original one was on
old building.
Oakland Street,
Oakland Street.
and then they moved to Sumner Avenue.
And who was the rabbi when you were growing up?
Rabbi Klein, actually.
Uh-huh. And what was your street address of your home?
48 Somerset Street in Springfield.
And when did you leave there? When did your family leave?
About
the building?
1954, I think, we moved to Long Meadow.
Okay. And
So
what's your business?
Well, I'm retired now, but I ran 3 family businesses and sold them.
Tell us about the names of one of
Oh,
them.
the businesses? Oh, well, one was called Bloom's Business Systems. We sold office equipment. And one was called Bloom's Printing Products Company, and we sold printing products to the printing industry. And the third business my father started, he was a real entrepreneur, and his was a trade show business that...
Umbrellas?
No, well, he started in umbrellas, but that's a whole other story. The third business was a trade show business that produced regional trade shows for the construction industry. Completely different.
Tell us your name.
Paul
You have to close.
Bloom.
Paul Bloom.
Right.
And Elliot is your son?
Correct.
Paul, were you born in Springfield?
I was.
Can you tell me where you lived when your family...
But originally, I was born on Holyoke Street, so in Springfield.
Uh-huh.
And that was January 1st, 1916.
Was that in the North End?
That time, it was the North End. And we were right around the corner from the Grays Avenue show.
Is that where you went?
That's where I went.
And the rabbi, when you were a kid, was?
I forget the rabbi's name, but my father was a cantor there for a while.
Oh, Cantor
Bloom. Meyer Bloom.
Meyer Bloom.
Yeah. And my grandfather was a Hebrew teacher. Wait a second. I know. We had Rabbi Rappaport. That came to me just then. He was the rabbi at my grandmother's home in Europe. And when he came over here to be the rabbi in Springfield, he was the only rabbi. So, and there were no Hebrew teachers. My grandfather was a Hebrew teacher. So he wrote him, he says, Yitzhak come to Springfield. They need a Hebrew teacher. So he came with my uncle Ben, and then my mother got married to my father in Europe, and they came over here. I'm supposed to write a story about it because after, those days you got pregnant almost the first time you got married, and they had to cross the river to get to Germany from the border. And I remember the story. She said she was a little woman. She'd have a pack on her back or on her head. My father would carry the stuff, and they crossed the river. Water was up to her neck, and they crossed the river, paid the German guards the fee to get across, and from there went on to Manchester, New England, and from there they had family, the Marx family. And after the Marx family, they came to Springfield. Yeah.
And can you tell me your wife's name?
My wife's name was Charlotte Lannon.
What?
Lannon, Lannon. Yeah, we met. I was at 17 and a half, and she was 14 and a half. We fell in love. We dated for 5 years and got married. And we celebrated our 69th anniversary last December. Unfortunately, she passed away.
Yeah. What's your name?
Oh, I'm Millie Cantor.
And were you born here?
No, I was born in Boston, but we've been here for over 50 years,
And
about
what
60
brought you
years.
here?
My husband he was a practicing dentist. He's now retired.
What was
Bob,
his name?
Robert Cantor, yeah. So we're here, and been here for many, many years and enjoyed living here.
Thank you. Your name?
Jan Draymore.
And have you been here forever?
Oh, yeah. Well, no, not forever, but since I've been married, which is quite a few years.
Where did you come from?
I came from Iowa originally, and this is home now after, 60 years, 50 years?
Thank you.
So we're happy to be here tonight.
Would you give us your name?
I'm Grace Sperling.
And where do you live?
I live in Springfield, Mass. Okay.
And were you born in Springfield?
Yes, I was born, raised here, yeah.
Where were you raised? What part of Springfield?
Forest Park section, Woodside Terrace.
Can you give us the street?
What address?
150. I used to live at 153 Woodside Terrace in Springfield. Now I live in Georgetown.
And what, did you belong to one of the congregations?
Yes, I belong to Bethel.
From the
Bethel
start?
Temple.
Then?
Yes, I've been a member since I was born, and I was confirmed at the Bethel
Who was the
Temple.
rabbi when you were confirmed?
Rabbi Price.
Price, good for you.
Yeah.
The teachers? The principal?
Miss Joe Kushner was the principal.
Thank you.
No, not the principal. He was the head of our class.
Joe
He was
Kushner.
Joe Kushner. Yeah, he was my teacher for my confirmation year.
That was a priceless piece of information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And okay.
Okay, can you give us your name, where you're from?
Maury Katz from Longmeadow,
And where were you born?
Syracuse, New York,
When did you come to Springfield?
1938.
And where did you live when you came here?
I didn't live, I went off to MIT, and then in 1942 when I graduated, we went right into the service for 4 years.
Okay, and then?
And then I joined my brother Cy Katz, and we went into the aluminum business together
And where was that?
in Springfield.
What did you call the business?
Well, it was Atlantic Steel and Iron because my brother was in the scrap business. But when I got out, I went into the aluminum business, and we're lucky that turned out to be successful. So we closed up the scrap business 5 years later.
Did you say you're Maurice Katz?
Yes.
So we have you to thank for the programming for the Charlie Rose show. Thank you.
That's right.
In honor of your wife.
Right.
I see it every time.
Charlie Rose.
Yes, but I see
So
your
many
wife's
people
name.
mention
I
it.
see your wife's name.
That's
which
right.
Is the point.
That's in perpetuity as long as Charlie Rose is on TV.
Tell us your name.
Dick Sirkin. I'm here to help them celebrate this wonderful occasion.
And are you from this?
Yes.
Are you from? Were you born here?
No, I was born in Connecticut, moved to Springfield in 1956.
And why did you move to Springfield?
I got married.
Oh,
My wife was
married.
her name was Carol Katz.
related to this fellow here?
Maury's niece.
Uh-huh.
That's the arrangement.
And did you have a business when you came, or did they take you in? And
Oh no, I had
bring you?
I had my own business.
What was that?
We were in the department store business.
Name of a department store?
They were called Meadows Department Store.
Where was that located?
We originally started out here in Agawam, Mass, and then we were all over the country for a while.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, I'm here to celebrate.
Good. Thank you.
What's your name and where you're from?
Danny Goodman from Longmeadow, Massachusetts.
And were you born here?
Born in Brooklyn. But I lived here for 62.5 years.
What did your father do for a living? What brought you?
I'm in the scrap. I was in the waste paper and scrap iron business.
What was your father's name?
Abraham. He's still alive.
I'm sorry. What was the name of his business?
Harry Goodman Incorporated.
Here in Springfield?
Yes.
Where was he located?
Here.
What street?
What street? He was he was born on Jefferson Avenue, then he moved to Ferglade Avenue and then Maplewood Terrace and then to Longmeadow.
Different experience. Thank you. Give us your name and where you're from.
Hi, Jerry Schreibstein, Longmeadow, Massachusetts.
Are you born here?
Brooklyn, New York.
What brought you here? Bring it closer.
A job opportunity.
Which job was that?
I'm an ear, nose, and throat surgeon in Springfield.
Uh-huh. And do you have a family here?
My wife, Harleen, and 2 children, Kayla and Andrew.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Catton, Kittredge, Rome. I've lived here my whole life. I've lived here my whole life.
Where were you born?
Springfield.
Where?
Oh, Weston Hospital.
What was your first address?
88 Olmsted Drive in Springfield.
In which neighborhood?
Forest Park.
And what was the shul your family went to?
Kadima, the original one on Oakland Street.
Right. And do you remember who the rabbi was?
Rabbi Klein.
And who was your teacher? One of your teachers.
My kindergarten teacher at Washington School was Miss Platt.
How about at the Hebrew school?
Couple of Israeli guys that were there for a year or two.
Uh-huh. Did you have a business? Did you work in something? No?
No, I'm the ultimate volunteer, thank you.
You are, so tell us what the things you volunteered in.
Besides the usual PTAs and being president of a PTA, I was 10 years on the Longmeadow School Committee, 3 years on the State Board of Education, and now I'm chairperson of the Board of Directors at Hatikva Holocaust Education Center.
Okay, would you give us your name?
My name is Lou Silver.
And where are you from?
And I'm from Enfield, Connecticut, and I'm president of the board at the Lubavitcher Yeshiva School in Longmeadow. And I'm here to honor a wonderful, wonderful gentleman who has been extremely wonderful to our school. Charlie has just had Jewishness in his heart forever, and we're indebted to him.
Okay, thank you.
And when did you come here, Rabbi Kosovsky?
About 1 minute ago, to Massachusetts, about 23 years ago.
To marry this lady?
Something like that.
Hi, Esther Kosovsky. I was born in Springfield, Massachusetts, and after my husband and I got married, we came back here to work and live in the community.
And what do you do?
I direct the Resource Center for Jewish Education for the Harold Grinspoon Foundation.
And where were you born?
I was born in Springfield, Mass.
Where?
Bay State Medical Center.
Where was your first home?
My first home as a child?
Address?
Orlando Street in Springfield.
And what shul did you all go to?
When we were little, we went to Kesser Israel on Oakland Street.
On Oakland Street?
Oakland Street.
And the names of your children?
Our sons, Binyamin, Levi, and Meir, and our daughters are Toby, Chaya, Malki, Bracha, Chana, and Brina.
Our son-in-law is Moshe Ben Shimon, and our daughter-in-law is Chani Kosovsky.
Good division of labor here. When was the school founded?
1946, September 1946. We celebrated our 62nd anniversary this year.
Where were you born? Here?
I was born in Fall River, Mass.
And what brought you to Springfield?
My husband.
Who's that?
Paul Salvage.
Is he here?
He should be here. I'm meeting him here.
Uh-huh. And what business is he in?
He's an attorney. And he was a former president of the Jewish Geriatric Services.
Uh-huh.
Okay?
Where do you live?
Long Meadow.
Thank you.
Meyer Weiss, Magnolia Circle in Long Meadow.
And you've only been here?
23 years.
What brought you here?
Business.
What business?
Company called Ludlow Specialty Papers. So I moved here from Chicago, and we've lived here ever since. This is our home. We love it.
Hi, my name is David Armenia, and I'm the ritual director of Temple Bethel.
When did you come here?
19 years ago.
Where did you come from?
I came from Florida. I lived in Florida before I came here.
You came for the job?
Yes. And Charlie is a millionaire, so we're here to honor him.
A millionaire. That's who you are.
I'm Diane Trotterman.
When did you come to this community?
I came to this community. I'm new to this community. I've been in the community for about 30 years.
And so what do you do, Diane?
I call myself a volunteer and a philanthropist. Okay? That's my career of choice.
Thank you. Okay. Faces. Tell us who you are.
My name is Harold Grinspoon. I'm a member of the Jewish community and a dear friend of Charlie Nirenberg.
When?
Charlie and I knew each other 55, 60 years ago. We were both ice cream peddlers. And we both sold ice cream, we peddled ice cream, and we were competitors at one time. And he was my first customer when I sold him a paper cup machine. And he's been a very dear, wonderful friend of mine. And there's nobody better than Charlie Nirenberg.
Were you born in this community?
No, I was in, Charlie and I were both born in the Boston area.
And what brought you to this area?
I got a job selling paper cups for $100 a week. And I got with American Paper Goods Company, and I got fired, laid off the job. I didn't have enough money to go home, so I stayed here.
Thank you. Thank you. You are?
Gail Berman. My husband is the executive director of the Federation, and so we moved the family here 3 years ago.
And who are the members of your family?
My husband Harold, myself Gail, and my son Micah, and my daughter Ilana.
Sylvia Falk.
Falk?
Yes.
How do you spell that?
F-A-L-K.
Are you from this town?
Not originally.
Not?
No.
What brought you here?
Skiing. We love to ski, so we moved up from New Jersey.
Who's we?
My husband and myself.
What's his name?
George.
And what business did you come to do here?
He's a dentist, so he went into practice in Florence, Mass. But we settled in Long Meadow because we wanted to send our kids to the Heritage Day School.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm Bee Haino, and I've lived here my whole life. I lived in Springfield. I was born in Springfield.
In which neighborhood?
North End. I lived in the North End.
What was your
and by the time I was 5, we moved to Fountain Street in Forest Park.
What was the street in the North End?
Jenks Street.
And what school did the family go to?
My father went to Kessler, Israel, I believe. Is that the one that's downtown, I think?
Well, there was downtown.
And my mother stayed home and cooked. And on holidays, I stayed out of school until I was about 11, and we joined Sinai Temple. And then we all participated and had an active life there.
Who are you?
I'm Frank Haino. I grew up in Granby, Mass. And we belong to Sons of Zion Synagogue in Holyoke. What else would you like?
Well, what did your father do for a living?
We had a business forms printing company in Holyoke.
What was the name?
Haino Business Forms.
What was the address?
85 Sargent Street in Holyoke.
And you went into the family business?
I went into the family business, as well as my brother went into the family business.
And is that the business you stayed in?
Yeah, we stayed in that until it was sold 10 years ago.
Congratulations. Thank you. Do you want to give us names of children if you have them?
We have a lot of them. I have 3. Andrea Levin, who lives in Cherry Hill, New Jersey now with her husband. I have twin boys, Jeff Bayevsky, who lives in Harrison, New York, with his wife, Andrea Schimmel Bayevsky. And then I have a son here in town, doctor in the emergency room, Robert Bayevsky.
I didn't realize that connection. And do you have children also?
Yes, I have 3, 2 boys and a girl. My son Edward lives in Atlanta. My son David lives in Baltimore, and my daughter Lynn lives in Columbia, Maryland.
Thank you.
I am Mitch Kupperman, and I live in Longmeadow, Massachusetts.
And I'm Susanne Osofsky, and I am now living in Longmeadow, but I'm originally from Oslo, Norway.
Wait, let's get a little bit more. Are
sure.
you born here?
I am not born here. I was born in New York. I actually came here to this area to go to school at Springfield College to do a master's degree back in 1974. And so I've been here except for a couple of years when I went back to the New York area. And I've been involved in education, convenience stores, and back to education.
Sylvan, right?
Sylvan Learning Centers, correct.
Ask her in Norwegian. Tell us in Norwegian who she is.
Say it in Norwegian.
Dette min mor. Hun kommer fra Norge. This is my mother. She comes from Norway, and she's just here visiting me. And my whole family still lives over there. And we came here in 1976. And my daughter we came at the time from Stuttgart, Germany, where my husband was in the army. And we moved to Springfield, where my husband started the practice in 1976. And he's a doctor. He's an ear, nose, and throat specialist. And we have now been here for over 30 years, so I feel like I'm a native.
What's your name?
B. Borshevsky.
How long have you been in Springfield?
All my life.
Were you born here?
Yes, I was.
Which neighborhood?
North End.
What was your shul?
Beth Israel.
And who was the rabbi? Okay, what address did you live at?
Osgood Street.
What number?
64.
And when did you move out of the North End?
Probably 1950.
1950. You moved to where?
Forest Park.
Are you still there?
No, I'm not.
Where are you now?
I'm in Enfield, Connecticut. Over the line.
And what were your parents' names?
Joseph and Mary Tuber.
So who are you?
I'm Richard Gaberman.
And are you from this town from forever?
I am from Holyoke, Massachusetts.
What's the street address in Holyoke?
33 Coit Street. You know where that is? It's off of Hillside Avenue.
So which shul did you go to?
Sons of Zion.
And when did you leave Holyoke to go where?
When I went to college.
And when you came back, you didn't go to Holyoke?
No.
You went to Springfield?
Well, no, I went after I got married and after finishing law school. Was in Boston for a year, and then we came back to Springfield.
What year was that?
1966, I came to Springfield.
And so what do you do for a living, sir?
I'm an attorney, and a good one.
That's fortunate.
You're right.
Yes. And would you like to name members of your family?
Sure, I'd be happy to. My wife, Betsy.
What was her maiden name?
Her maiden name was Heit, H-E-I-T.
Is she from this area?
She was from Longmeadow. She's actually a native of Longmeadow, Massachusetts. And she grew up in Longmeadow when there were no Jews there, which was very difficult for her. I grew up in Holyoke. I never suffered any prejudice of any kind, and she grew up with a lot of prejudice in Longmeadow. I have 2 children.
Names?
Name is Jana and Ira.
Thank you.
I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to talk to you, and I hope people in the future will be as happy as I am living in Springfield, Longmeadow, Massachusetts.
Well,
it's a great community and a wonderful Jewish community.
Thank you.
Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, in trying to define who exactly we are as Jews, says we're, of course, not a race, We're not an ethnicity. There are many ethnicities among Jews. We're not a culture. We're not even exclusively speaking a religion. And we're not even strictly speaking a people. So what are we? We are a family. When we connect, when we work together, when we are all responsible one for another, the power we unleash is unstoppable. And what we can accomplish within our own Jewish family and for the sake of all humanity is beyond the greatest visions of any one individual. To each of you and your families, I wish you Shana Tova, a happy and healthy new year in which we work together and build an unbelievably vibrant Jewish community here in Western Massachusetts and throughout our world.
The STU leads include swim lessons for all ages, programs for the handicapped, senior exercise, a master swim program, parent and tot programs, and many, many more. STU started the swim team in '75 and has coached it ever since. We think over 2,000 kids have participated over the years. Raise your hand if you or your kids have participated. Stuart has also taken on a leadership role beyond the JCC. He was chair of both the Pioneer Valley and the New England Swim Leagues for many years, and the Maccabi Games, which were a wild success, held here in 2006. Present this award to Stu Green for your outstanding community service as a professional. Mazel tov.
She's so tired.
First, I'm going to ask for a laugh, and this is why she gave me less time to speak than everyone else. But I want to quiet people in the back of the room first. None of my clothes are rented. Nothing I have on tonight is borrowed. And nothing is stolen either. There was also a bet in the back of the room when the last time I've been dressed up, and they thought it was my senior prom. I've been dressed up 4 times since my senior prom. And this makes the 5th, and I don't want you to forget that. Now, I know that it's hard to recognize me without a bathing suit, but you have to understand, one of the best parts of my job is a weight control program, because the largest competitive swimsuit designed is size 38. I've been a size 40 for 20 years, so it keeps me motivated. I'd like to thank Harold and Diane and the Grinspoon Foundation for this award, and congratulate all the award recipients for their wonderful work and the awards that were received tonight. I am so uneasy about being up here as an unsung hero for a couple of reasons. Number one, the consideration that the Springfield Jewish community has shown me since 1975, I believe, is unprecedented in the history of Jewish community centers. I can think back over the last 32 years, and it's filled with wonderful people, wonderful memories, and I can't think of any time that it wasn't a joy to work for and serve the Springfield Jewish community. And that's from my heart. I'm not making that up for tonight. So I don't know how that works. But unsung, boy, I walk down the hallways of the JCC and feel wonderful every day. The part about being a hero is even less comfortable for me. I served in combat in Vietnam with the 25th Infantry Division, the same battalion that my father served in World War II, the 5th Regiment. And I know what a hero is. And I served with heroes. I'm not one, I served with them. And that's the same way I feel tonight. I'm being honored tonight, but when I walk down the halls of the JCC, I work with heroes. Every JCC employee, everybody that walks into that building that's part of this community, I look up to. So it's hard for me to be singled out when I feel the same way when I look into the eyes of all of my coworkers. I do appreciate the award in the sense that it's given, and I understand the context, and I'm very, very thrilled to be here with you tonight, and I thank you so much for the award. Mazel tov to all of the other recipients, and thank you so much.
We are making ice cream, ice cream novelties. We had about 200 wholesale accounts that we were selling to. I had 37 Dairy Mart stores and 5 Princess ice cream parlors. And along came a company called Giant Stores, a discount department store chain that wanted to get into the convenience store business. They made me an offer I couldn't refuse. They had shown profits of between $500,000 and $1.5 million, and were an American exchange company. And they made me an offer of $2.6 million of Giant stock. Well, I'm going to tell you that after checking with all of my advisors and really scrutinizing it, I took the deal and became a paper millionaire. The following year, when Giant Stores went bankrupt, I became a paper pauper. And during that whole year, what I did was chop wood in my backyard. And I remembered the executives of the Giant Stores: Kaufman, Shapiro, Lieberman, and I hit them every time. It was tough. But by the end of that year, I was able to talk a vice president of the First National Bank in Springfield into coming with me with a check for $250,000 to buy the Dairy Mart company back from bankruptcy court. And we did that. Now that I had my company back, there was no stopping me. Within 3 years, I was building a $3 million dairy plant in Enfield, Connecticut, with the help of the Connecticut Development Authority. But I'd always felt as though I wanted to grow to 1,000 stores. And in order to do that, I felt as though I had to be a public company. And so in 1983, I had 140 stores, and we were making a good profit. And I went public. Well, by 1987, I had reached my 1,000 store mark and more. We had 1,250 stores in 11 states. And now it was time to think about what I could do for others. And the first place that I thought we had to do something was the Jewish community of Springfield. And so we set up this charitable remainder trust for the Jewish community, but it had a twofold purpose. One was to take care of the children, the Nirenberg children, and secondly, the Jewish community. The Nirenberg children were in fact supposed to receive 5% of the original amount per year for the 20-year period. which in fact would have taken 100% of the original amount to the Nirenberg children. However, we had some bad years in the marketplace, and during those years, the Nirenberg children didn't take their funds, and so for this, I thank them very much. I appreciate it. Now that the 20 years is just about up, I took a look at the real value of what the Charitable Remainder Trust is, and it comes out to be $1,800,000, a little more. I've always felt that that amount should not be less than $2 million. And so we're going to reach into the Nirenberg Foundation to make sure that it's $2 million. With that $2 million amount, and all this was spoken for in the Charitable Remainder Trust, the first recipient would be the Federation, the Jewish Federation of Springfield, and to them goes $500,000, and I have a check for them. I don't know who's going to pick it up. Take another one. Congratulations. It's a pretty big check, but I'll give you a smaller one. The second check, also for $500,000, will go to the Jewish Home for the Aged. They say Jewish Geriatric. To me, it's a home for the aged. Jewish Home for the Aged. Who comes up? Here they are. Get in the back of the check, or we'll make you take a picture. Okay. All right. And the third check goes to the Bethel Temple, where we have been members for more than 50 years. And I think that the president and somebody else will be picking up that check. Ellen Ratner, where are you? There she is. All for you. Yeah. You're coming to get it? Somebody else going to take a picture? Oh, Karen, wait a minute. No. Wait. No. Come on, wait. Okay? All right, take the picture. All right. Here's the one. And so, those are the big checks. The other $500,000 will all go for Jewish education to 3 different sources. Firstly, to the Heritage Academy, $200,000. holding it up. Yeah. Dr. Starr and Richard Goldstein, thank you very much for coming. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Oh, wow, you're not going to cash it?
The next check for $200,000, now Karen can come up. It's for the Sandy Kupman Learning Center for afternoon school education. Karen, you're doing a great job. And the last check I have is for the Yeshiva Academy. They have all kinds of schools. And so Rabbi Kosofsky and Rabbi Edelman, will you both come up? Who comes up here? Lou Silva and Rabbi Edelman are coming up. Rabbi Edelman always told me, Gott wird geben, and he did give. And so that's the checks. But I've got to also tell you that Jan and I have plenty of reason to be supporting the Jewish community. Both of us are first-generation Americans. My father came to this country almost 100 years ago, in 1911. And he worked for 10 years before he could bring his wife and 3 children to America. He came from a little town in the Ukraine called Koretz. Koretz was a town of about 8,000 people. 6,000 of whom were Jews. In 1941, when the Nazis came through, they killed all 6,000. That was my mother's family and my father's family. And Jan has a similar story. Jan's parents also came from the Ukraine, but they came from a larger city, Zhytomyr. And Zhytomyr was a city of possibly 100,000 or a little more. And I think because it was a bigger city, they didn't get 100% of the Jews, let's say probably 90%. And so we have good reason to be thankful for the Jewish community. We love America. We love Springfield. And we love the Jewish community. And I thank you all very much.